What if the continents were never natural, but colossal structures designed long before humans? Welcome back to Javis Heist, where we dive deep into the mysteries that keep you awake at night. I'm your host, and today we're going to challenge everything you think you know about the ground beneath your feet. Picture this. You're standing on your back porch, looking out at the familiar landscape. The rolling hills, maybe a mountain range in the distance, the vast plains stretching to the horizon. It's solid, permanent, natural, right? What if I told you that everything you're looking at, every continent on this planet, might not be the product of natural geological forces, but something far more extraordinary? What if the continents themselves, North America, South America, Europe, Asia, Africa, Australia, Antarctica, what if they were constructed, built by an intelligence so advanced, so ancient, that their true purpose has been lost to time? I know what you're thinking. Come on, that's impossible. Continents are natural formations. But hold on to that skepticism, because by the end of today's episode, you might find yourself questioning everything you learned in geology class. Let me take you back to 1912. A German meteorologist named Alfred Wegener was studying world maps when something caught his eye, something so obvious that it's amazing no one had seriously considered it before. The coastlines of continents seem to fit together like pieces of a jigsaw puzzle. Look at South America and Africa. If you could somehow push them together, they'd fit almost perfectly. The eastern coast of South America mirrors the western coast of Africa with uncanny precision. But Wegener noticed something else, something that still gives geologists chills today. The rock formations, the mineral deposits, even the fossil records on opposite sides of the Atlantic Ocean, they matched. Not similar, identical, as if they had once been part of the same structure. Wegener proposed continental drift, the idea that continents moved across the Earth's surface over millions of years. The scientific community ridiculed him. They called his ideas fantasy, impossible. But here's where it gets interesting. Wegener died in 1930, never seeing his theory vindicated. It wasn't until the 1960 seconds that plate tectonics was accepted, proving that continents do indeed move. But what the mainstream scientific community didn't address, what they couldn't address, were the implications that went far beyond simple geological drift. Here's where our story takes a turn into the truly mysterious. Dr. Sarah Chen, a structural engineer from MIT, published a controversial paper in 2019 that sent shockwaves through both the geological and archaeological communities. Her findings? The mathematical probability of continents naturally forming the intricate, interlocking patterns we see today is virtually zero. Chen ran computer simulations, thousands of them, modeling random geological processes over billions of years. In every single simulation, the resulting landmasses were chaotic, irregular, with no discernible patterns. Yet, our continents display what she calls engineered precision. Consider the Mediterranean Sea. When you look at it from space, it resembles a complex lock mechanism. The Italian peninsula fits into the Adriatic like a key. The islands of Greece and Turkey create what appears to be a series of chambers and channels. The Strait of Gibraltar, that narrow passage between Europe and Africa, is precisely 14.3 kilometers wide at its narrowest point. 14.3 kilometers. Chen discovered that this measurement, when converted to ancient units used by various civilizations, consistently appears in megalithic structures around the world. The same ratio appears in the dimensions of Stonehenge, the Great Pyramid of Giza, and temples in Cambodia and Peru. Coincidence? Chen didn't think so. She began mapping what she called structural nodes points, where continental features displayed geometric precision that defied natural explanation. But Chen's discoveries were just the beginning. As deep-sea exploration technology advanced in the 21st century, oceanographers began finding something extraordinary on the ocean floor between continents. Massive structures, clearly artificial, lying beneath miles of sediment. In 2018, a research vessel exploring the mid-Atlantic ridge discovered what appeared to be a series of enormous pillars, each one the size of a city skyscraper, stretching for hundreds of miles along the ocean floor. The material? An unknown composite that combines properties of metal, stone, and something else, something our current technology can't identify. Dr. Marcus Rodriguez, the marine archaeologist who led the expedition, described the moment they first saw these structures on sonar. It was like looking at the skeleton of something unimaginably vast. These weren't random geological formations. They were clearly constructed, with purpose, with intention. The pillars were aligned in geometric patterns. When mapped from above, they formed what appeared to be a massive grid system, connecting the continental shelves of North America, Europe, and Africa. Rodriguez's team found similar formations in the Pacific, linking Asia, Australia, and the Americas. But here's what really sent chills down Rodriguez's spine. Dating analysis of the sediment layers covering these structures suggested they were at least 12,000 years old. Some estimates put them at over 50,000 years old, long before any known civilization had the technology to build them. Now, let me tell you about something that still gives me goosebumps every time I think about it. In the archives of the Topkapi Palace in Istanbul, there sits a map that shouldn't exist. The Piri Reis map, created in 1513, shows the coastlines of South America and Antarctica with impossible accuracy. Here's the thing: Antarctica wasn't officially discovered until 1820. And the map doesn't just show Antarctica's coastline, it shows the coastline as it would appear without ice. Modern sonar mapping has confirmed that the Piri Reis map matches the actual rock coastline beneath Antarctica's ice sheet with startling precision. But Piri Reis wasn't some supernatural cartographer. In his own notes, he explains that he compiled his map from older sources, much older sources. He references maps from the time of Alexander the Great and mentions charts that were supposedly drawn in the days of the prophet, peace be upon him. Charles Hapgood, the historian who first studied the Piri Reis map extensively, made a disturbing discovery. The mathematical principles used to create the map's projection required knowledge of spherical trigonometry and the exact circumference of the Earth, knowledge that wasn't supposed to exist in 1513. But perhaps most unsettling of all, when Hapgood overlaid the Piri Reis map with modern satellite imagery, he noticed something extraordinary. The coastlines weren't just accurate, they corresponded exactly with Chen's structural nodes. Every major geometric feature that Chen had identified as potentially artificial was marked on a 500-year-old map. Let me paint you a picture of just how precise these continental arrangements really are. Take the Atlantic Ocean. If you measure the distance from the eastern tip of Brazil to the western coast of Africa, you get approximately 2,900 kilometers. Now, measure the distance from the northern tip of Greenland to the southern tip of Argentina. The ratio between these measurements is exactly 1.618, the golden ratio, the same mathematical constant found in everything, from the spiral of a nautilus shell to the proportions of the Parthenon. This same ratio appears when you measure the distances between the major continental masses across the Pacific. It appears in the spacing of the Hawaiian island chain. It even appears in the positioning of the magnetic poles relative to the geographic poles. Dr. Elena Vasquez, a mathematician from Stanford who has spent the last decade studying these patterns, puts it this way: nature is beautiful, but it's rarely this mathematically precise. What we're seeing in continental arrangements suggests a level of intentional design that we typically only find in human engineering. Vasquez has identified what she calls the continental code, a series of mathematical relationships that appear consistently across all 7 continents. The ratios, the angles, the distances between key geographical features all follow specific numerical patterns. But here's where it gets really strange. These patterns don't just appear in the large-scale structure of continents. They appear in the microstructure too. The branching patterns of major river systems follow the same geometric principles. Mountain ranges align with mathematical precision. Even the distribution of mineral deposits follows these patterns. So if continents weren't formed naturally, how were they constructed? Dr. James Mitchell, a former NASA engineer turned independent researcher, has proposed what he calls the deep time construction hypothesis. Mitchell suggests that an advanced civilization, existing perhaps millions of years ago, undertook a planet-scale engineering project. Using technology we can't even comprehend, they literally built the continents as massive platforms, perhaps as habitation zones, perhaps for purposes we can't imagine. The evidence? Mitchell points to the layers beneath continental crust. Standard geological theory says these layers should show gradual formation over billions of years. But when you actually examine core samples, what you find are distinct, uniform layers that suggest rapid, intentional construction rather than gradual accretion. Mitchell's team has identified what they believe are foundation structures beneath every major continent. These structures are composed of materials that don't match the surrounding geology. They're harder, more durable, and they contain trace elements that don't occur naturally on Earth. In Antarctica, beneath 2 miles of ice, ground-penetrating radar has revealed what appears to be a vast network of tunnels and chambers. The geometry is too perfect, too purposeful to be natural. Mitchell believes these might be the remains of the construction infrastructure, the tools and machinery used to build the continents themselves. But here's where the mystery deepens even further. If continents were artificially constructed, when did this happen? And more importantly, what happened to the civilization that built them? The geological evidence suggests these structures are incredibly old, far older than any known civilization. We're talking about time frames that dwarf human history. But there are hints, scattered throughout human mythology and ancient texts, that our ancestors might have had some knowledge of these builders. The Sumerian creation myths speak of the Anunnaki, beings who moved the mountains and shaped the land. The Hindu Puranas describe the Devas as entities who carved the earth and set the foundations of the world. Aboriginal Australian Dreamtime stories tell of the rainbow serpent who laid down the paths of the continents. Could these be cultural memories of actual events, distorted over thousands of generations, but based on real observations of continental construction? Dr. Linda Thompson, an anthropologist specializing in ancient oral traditions, has found striking similarities in creation myths from cultures that had no contact with each other. There's a common thread, she explains. Almost every ancient culture has stories about beings who shaped the land itself, not just built cities or monuments, but actually constructed the very ground they stood on. In recent years, several discoveries have added weight to the continental construction hypothesis, but many of these findings have been quietly suppressed or explained away by the mainstream scientific community. In 2020, a mining operation in the Canadian Shield, one of the oldest geological formations on Earth, broke through into what appeared to be an artificial chamber. The space was perfectly spherical, about 200 meters in diameter, with walls made of a material that wasn't quite metal, wasn't quite stone. The chamber was empty, except for a series of geometric symbols carved into the walls. The mining company reported the find to geological authorities, who sealed the site and classified the information, but not before several miners took photographs. The symbols in that chamber matched inscriptions found in underwater structures off Japan, in caves beneath the Andes, and carved into stones in Turkey. Then there's the matter of the magnetic anomalies. Every continent sits atop massive magnetic field disturbances that don't match natural geological patterns. These anomalies form geometric shapes when mapped triangles, hexagons, complex spirals. Geophysicists have no explanation for why these patterns exist or what's causing them. Satellite imagery has revealed another disturbing pattern. When you filter out vegetation and human development, the underlying topography of every continent shows clear geometric structures, straight lines stretching for hundreds of miles, perfect circles and squares invisible from ground level but obvious from space, grid patterns that suggest continental-scale urban planning. Why isn't this information more widely known, Doctor? Sarah Chen believes it's because the implications are too revolutionary, too threatening to established scientific paradigms. If continents are artificial, Chen explains, then everything we know about Earth's history, about human development, about our place in the universe, needs to be reconsidered. Institutions don't like that kind of fundamental challenge. But there's more to it than institutional inertia. Several researchers who've investigated continental construction have faced unusual obstacles. Funding has been mysteriously withdrawn. Data has disappeared from computer systems. Some researchers have been discredited or had their careers destroyed. Dr. Rodriguez, the marine archaeologist who discovered the Mid-Atlantic ridge pillars, found his research permits revoked after he published his preliminary findings. His follow-up expeditions were blocked by international maritime authorities. When I contacted Dr. Rodriguez for this episode, he was reluctant to go on record, but he did tell me this. There are forces that don't want us digging too deep into this mystery. And I mean that literally. So if continents were artificially constructed, who built them? This is perhaps the most tantalizing question of all. The time frames involved suggest beings that existed long before humans, perhaps before any life as we know it existed on Earth. But some researchers have proposed more exotic possibilities. Dr. Mitchell believes the builders might not have been from Earth at all. The technology required for continental construction is so far beyond anything we can imagine. He says that it almost certainly represents an off-world intelligence. The geometric patterns found in continental structures match mathematical constants that appear throughout the universe, in the spiral arms of galaxies, in the structure of atoms, in the behavior of quantum particles. This suggests the builders had a deep understanding of fundamental cosmic principles. But there's another possibility, one that's even more unsettling. What if the builders were human, but from a far more advanced human civilization that existed in the deep past? What if our entire understanding of human history is wrong? Archaeological evidence increasingly suggests that human civilization is much older than we've been taught. Sites like Göbekli Tepe in Turkey, with its massive stone structures dating back 12,000 years, challenge everything we thought we knew about early human capabilities. Could there have been a previous human civilization, one so advanced that they could reshape entire continents? And if so, what happened to them? Assuming continents were artificially constructed, why would anyone undertake such a massive project? The answers researchers have proposed range from practical to utterly mysterious. The most straightforward explanation is habitation. Perhaps the builders created continents as living spaces, carefully designed to support life in specific ways. The positioning of continents affects global weather patterns, ocean currents, and climate zones. If you wanted to create optimal conditions for life to flourish, you might arrange continents exactly as they are. But Dr. Vasquez has a more intriguing theory. She believes the continents might function as a massive machine, a planetary-scale device designed for purposes we can't comprehend. Consider the tectonic activity, she explains. Earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, continental drift. What if these aren't random geological processes but operational functions? What if the continents are components in some kind of planetary engine? This theory gains support from the magnetic anomalies I mentioned earlier. The geometric patterns of these magnetic fields change over time, following cycles that correspond to astronomical events, solar activity, planetary alignments, even the movement of our solar system through the galaxy. Some researchers have suggested that Earth itself might be an artificial construct, a spacecraft or space station designed to look like a natural planet. The continents would be different sections of this vessel, each serving specific functions in maintaining the ship's operation. I know how this sounds. I know how crazy it seems. But remember, we're talking about engineering on a scale and timeline that dwarfs human comprehension. The purposes of such construction might be as alien to us as our purposes would be to an ant. If the continental construction hypothesis is correct, what does it mean for us today? The implications are staggering and touch every aspect of human existence. First, there's the question of stability. If continents are artificial constructs rather than natural formations, are they still functioning as designed? The increase in seismic activity worldwide, the unusual weather patterns we've been experiencing, the apparent acceleration of continental drift, could these be signs that the continental system is breaking down? Dr. Chen has documented what she calls structural stress indicators appearing across all continents. These include unusual rock fractures that follow geometric rather than natural patterns, magnetic field fluctuations that don't correspond to known geological processes, and gravitational anomalies that suggest something is changing deep within continental foundations. Then there's the technology question. If we could understand how continents were constructed, we might gain access to engineering principles that could revolutionize human civilization. Imagine being able to manipulate matter and energy on a continental scale. Imagine having the power to reshape geography itself. But with that power would come responsibility. And perhaps that's why this knowledge has been suppressed. Maybe we're not ready for it. Maybe we can't be trusted with it. I have to be honest with you. Researching this topic has changed how I see the world. When I walk outside now, I don't see solid ground. I see the surface of something constructed, something built with intention and purpose I can't fathom. It's both thrilling and terrifying. Thrilling because it suggests that intelligence and engineering capability exist on scales we never imagined. Terrifying because it makes us seem so small, so temporary, so dependent on systems we don't understand and can't control. But there's something else, something almost spiritual about this possibility. If continents were built, if Earth itself might be a constructed environment, then we're not just random products of evolutionary chance. We're inhabitants of something designed, something purposeful. That suggests intention, perhaps even care, on the part of our builders. Who were they? Where did they go? Are they still here, somehow, watching over their creation? And most importantly, what did they intend for us? Before we continue with ongoing investigations, there's another aspect of continental construction that demands attention: the possibility that continents function as components in a global energy grid. Dr. Alexander Petrov, a Russian physicist who defected to the West in 2015, brought with him decades of classified Soviet research into what he calls planetary energy dynamics. According to Petrov, Soviet scientists had discovered that continental landmasses generate and channel energy in ways that don't align with conventional physics. In the 1960 seconds, Petrov explains, we were monitoring electromagnetic emissions from various points around the globe. What we found was that the strongest energy signatures weren't coming from obvious sources, like volcanic activity or tectonic movements. They were coming from specific geometric points within continental landmasses, points that formed perfect mathematical relationships with each other. The Soviet research team, working in complete secrecy, mapped what they called continental energy nodes, specific locations where massive amounts of electromagnetic energy seemed to originate from deep within the Earth's crust. These nodes weren't randomly distributed. They formed geometric patterns that spanned entire continents and, when connected, created a global network of energy flow. The most powerful nodes were located at sites that ancient civilizations had considered sacred: the Giza Plateau in Egypt, Machu Picchu in Peru, Stonehenge in England, Mount Kailash in Tibet. But the Soviet team discovered hundreds of lesser nodes, many in remote locations where no ancient structures existed. What made these discoveries truly extraordinary was the precision of the energy patterns. The frequencies, the pulse rates, the amplitude variations, they all followed mathematical sequences that suggested artificial generation rather than natural phenomenon. Petrov's team conducted experiments at several node locations, and what they found was staggering. The energy emissions weren't just coming from these sites, they were being actively controlled by something deep underground. When the team introduced specific electromagnetic frequencies at one node, corresponding changes occurred at related nodes thousands of miles away, sometimes within seconds. It was as if the entire continental system was responding to our input. Petrov recalls, we weren't just observing natural energy flows, we were interacting with some kind of planetary scale machine. But the energy grid theory goes deeper than just electromagnetic emissions. Dr. Isabella Romano, an acoustic engineer from the University of Florence, has been studying what she calls continental resonance, low-frequency vibrations that seem to originate from within continental masses themselves. Using highly sensitive equipment, Romano has detected continuous, rhythmic vibrations emanating from deep within every continent. These aren't seismic waves or tectonic movements. They're too regular, too purposeful. The frequencies are so low that humans can't hear them, but they can be measured and analyzed. What we're detecting, Romano explains, are harmonics, complex musical relationships between frequencies generated by different continental masses. It's as if the continents are singing to each other in a language we're only beginning to understand. Romano's team has discovered that these continental frequencies change in response to astronomical events. During solar flares, the harmonics shift to higher frequencies. During lunar eclipses, they slow down. The most dramatic changes occur during planetary alignments, when the continental frequencies suddenly synchronize, creating what Romano calls planetary chords, moments when all continents vibrate in perfect harmonic relationship. But here's the truly unsettling part. These frequency changes often precede major geological events by several days or weeks. Romano's team has successfully predicted earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, and even severe weather events by monitoring shifts in continental resonance. It's as if the continental system is constantly adjusting itself to maintain some kind of balance, Romano observes. And when that balance is threatened, the system responds with what we interpret as natural disasters. This suggests that what we call natural disasters might actually be maintenance functions the continental system, making necessary adjustments to preserve its operational integrity. Of all the continents, Antarctica holds the most compelling evidence for artificial construction. As climate change causes ice sheets to retreat, structures of impossible size and complexity are being revealed. In 2021, a joint expedition by researchers from 12 different countries discovered what can only be described as an underground city beneath the Antarctic ice sheet. Using ground-penetrating radar and deep core drilling, the team mapped a network of tunnels, chambers, and what appear to be mechanical systems extending for hundreds of miles beneath the ice. Dr. Yuki Tanaka, the Japanese glaciologist who led the expedition, described the moment they first confirmed the existence of these structures. We expected to find rock, maybe some ancient ice formations. Instead, we found architecture. Chambers with smooth walls, perfectly straight corridors, spaces that were clearly designed for specific purposes. The structures beneath Antarctica follow the same geometric principles that researchers have identified in continental arrangements worldwide. The tunnel systems form precise geometric patterns when mapped from above. The chambers are positioned at mathematically significant intervals. Even the depth of the structures follows the golden ratio that appears consistently in continental measurements. But most remarkably, the structures appear to be functional. Temperature readings indicate that many of the chambers are significantly warmer than they should be, given their depth and the surrounding ice. Electromagnetic readings suggest active power sources operating deep within the complex. Tanaka's team was able to access only a few of the upper chambers before international authorities shut down the expedition. But what they found in those chambers has changed everything we thought we knew about Antarctica's history. The walls were covered with symbols not carved, but somehow embedded in the material itself. The symbols weren't random decorations. They formed complex diagrams that appeared to be technical specifications or operating instructions. When these diagrams were analyzed by engineers, They showed remarkable similarity to modern engineering schematics blueprints for systems and machines whose purpose wasn't immediately clear. It was like finding the technical manual for Antarctica, Tanaka explains, as if someone had left instructions for how the continent is supposed to function. Africa, often called the birthplace of humanity, may hold the key to understanding why continents were constructed and by whom. Dr. Amara Okonkwo, a geologist from the University of Lagos, has been investigating unusual mineral formations throughout the African continent that suggest large-scale artificial processing. Africa contains the world's largest deposits of rare earth elements, precious metals, and minerals essential for advanced technology. But the distribution of these deposits doesn't follow natural geological patterns. Instead, they appear to have been concentrated and refined through processes that don't occur naturally on Earth. When you map the mineral deposits across Africa, Okonkwo explains, you see patterns that look like industrial planning. It's as if someone surveyed the continent and strategically placed different materials where they would be most useful. Okonkwo's research has revealed evidence of ancient mining operations on a scale that dwarfs modern industrial efforts. Deep beneath the Kalahari Desert, satellite imagery has revealed what appear to be vast open-pit mines now buried under hundreds of feet of sand. These mines are perfectly circular, with diameters measured in miles, not meters. Similar formations have been found throughout Africa in the Ethiopian highlands, beneath the Congo rainforest, in the Atlas Mountains of North Africa. When these ancient mining sites are mapped, they form the same geometric patterns that researchers have found in continental arrangements worldwide. But Okonkwo has made an even more remarkable discovery. The materials extracted from these ancient mines weren't just valuable ores and metals. Analysis of residual deposits suggests that the miners were extracting isotopes and rare elements that don't occur naturally in sufficient quantities on Earth. It's as if they were mining materials for technologies we can't even imagine, Okonkwo observes. Elements that might be used for energy generation, for advanced materials science, perhaps even for space travel. This raises the possibility that continents weren't just built as habitation zones, but as resource extraction and processing facilities. Africa, with its incredible mineral wealth, might have been designed as the primary mining and manufacturing center for whatever civilization constructed the continents. Perhaps the most radical theory to emerge from continental construction research is Dr. Maria Santos's living continent hypothesis. Santos, a biomechanical engineer from Brazil, proposes that continents aren't just artificial constructs. They're living organisms on a scale we've never conceived. Consider the characteristics of continents, Santos argues. They consume resources, process materials, generate energy, respond to stimuli, maintain homeostasis, and even reproduce through continental drift and tectonic activity. These are all characteristics of living systems. Santos points to several phenomena that support her theory. Continental masses appear to have circulatory systems, the network of underground rivers and aquifers that transport water and dissolved minerals throughout continental interiors. They have nervous systems, the electromagnetic energy grids that Dr. Petrov discovered. They even appear to have digestive systems, the subduction zones where oceanic crust is consumed and processed. Most remarkably, continents seem to exhibit something resembling immune responses. When major disruptions occur, asteroid impacts, massive volcanic eruptions, dramatic climate changes, continents respond with compensatory adjustments that restore balance and stability. The mass extinction events in Earth's history, Santos explains, might not have been random catastrophes. They might have been immune responses, the continental system eliminating threats to its overall health. This perspective casts human civilization in a completely different light. Rather than being masters of our environment, we might be symbiotic organisms living within a vast biological system. Our activities, agriculture, mining, construction, might serve functions within the continental organism that we don't understand. Santos has found evidence that human population distribution and migration patterns follow the same mathematical principles that govern other continental processes. Our cities grow along specific geometric patterns that align with continental energy nodes. Our agricultural systems follow distribution patterns that mirror the continental circulatory networks. We think we're shaping the environment, Santos observes, but maybe the environment has been shaping us all along. Maybe human civilization developed exactly as the continental system intended. The investigation into continental construction is far from over. Despite official suppression and academic resistance, independent researchers around the world continue to gather evidence. New deep-sea expeditions, though limited by permit restrictions, continue to discover artificial structures on ocean floors. Advanced satellite imagery reveals more geometric patterns in continental topography every year. And as ice caps melt due to climate change, previously hidden structures in Antarctica and Greenland are being exposed. There's also a growing network of citizen scientists using publicly available satellite data to map continental anomalies. They're finding patterns that official geological surveys have somehow missed or chosen to ignore. Perhaps most intriguingly, some researchers believe the builders left a kind of instruction manual encoded in the continental structures themselves. Dr. Vasquez has identified what she thinks might be a mathematical message embedded in the geometric patterns of continental arrangement. She's working to decode it, but the complexity is staggering. It's like trying to read a book written by beings who think in dimensions we can't perceive, she explains. But I think we're getting close to understanding at least part of the message. The message, if it exists, might hold the key to understanding not just how continents were constructed, but why. It might reveal the true purpose of Earth's continental system and humanity's role within it. It might even provide instructions for maintaining or repairing the continental machinery as it ages and degrades. As we reach the end of our journey today, I'm left with questions that keep me awake at night. Questions that might not have answers, at least not answers we're ready to understand. If continents were built, are we living on the surface of something larger? Perhaps a machine, a vehicle, a construct whose true purpose is beyond our comprehension. Are we passengers on a journey we don't understand, to a destination we can't imagine? And what about the builders themselves? Did they disappear? Or did they simply transcend physical existence, becoming something we can't perceive? Are they still here, maintaining their creation, guiding its development? Sometimes I wonder if human civilization itself is part of their design, if we're not just inhabitants, but components, biological entities meant to serve some function in the larger system. It's a humbling thought, and maybe a frightening one, but it's also potentially liberating. If we're part of something designed, something purposeful, then our existence has meaning on a scale we never imagined. We're not alone in an uncaring universe. We're participants in something magnificent. So, what do you make of all this? Is it possible that the ground beneath your feet, the very continents we live on, were constructed by beings of unimaginable capability? Or is it more comfortable to believe that everything formed naturally through random geological processes over billions of years? I can't make that choice for you. The evidence is suggestive, but not conclusive. The mainstream scientific community rejects these ideas, and maybe they're right to do so. Maybe the patterns researchers have found are just coincidences, pareidolia on a geological scale. But maybe, just maybe, we're living on the surface of the greatest engineering project ever undertaken. A project so vast, so ancient, and so sophisticated that we've mistaken it for nature itself. The truth is out there, literally beneath our feet. Whether we're ready to accept it, whether we're capable of understanding it, whether we're meant to understand it, those are different questions entirely. What I do know is this: the world is far more mysterious, far more complex, and far more wonderful than we ever imagined. Whether continents are natural or artificial, we live in a universe filled with wonders that challenge our understanding and expand our sense of possibility. And that, to me, is worth investigating. It's worth questioning everything we think we know. It's worth staying curious, staying open, and staying amazed by the incredible planet we call home, whether it was born or built. That's our journey for today. But this mystery is far from solved. What do you think? Have I convinced you to look at the ground beneath your feet with new eyes? Or do you think I've gone too far down the rabbit hole of speculation? I want to hear your thoughts. Leave a comment below and tell me what you think about the continental construction hypothesis. Have you noticed any strange geometric patterns in your local geography? Do you have access to any information that might support or debunk these theories? And if this kind of deep dive into history's greatest mysteries resonates with you, make sure to subscribe to Javis Heist and ring that notification bell. We explore the unknown, the unexplained, and the unbelievable every week. From ancient civilizations to modern cover-ups, from scientific anomalies to historical enigmas, we're here to ask the questions that others won't ask and to pursue the truth wherever it leads us. Next week, we'll be diving into another mystery that challenges everything we thought we knew about our past. I can't say too much about it yet, but let's just say it involves some very famous historical figures, some very suspicious deaths, and some very compelling evidence that one of the most pivotal moments in American history might not have happened the way we've been told. Until then, keep questioning, keep wondering, and remember, the most extraordinary truths are often hidden in plain sight. This has been Javis, Heist. I'm your host, and as always, the truth is out there waiting for us to find it.